derived from the leaves of the coca plant. When cocaine enters the body, it has a strong effect on body functions by acting as an irritant on the brain. Large overdose of cocaine causes convulsions, then death. Cocaine causes unusual and often unpredictable feelings and actions. In his ignorance, Marty took that dare, little knowing the eventual horror that lay in the deadly white powder.
Marty, have you seen the painting chairs I bought last week? Can't seem to find them anywhere. Marty, you don't seem right. I'm worried about you. There's something wrong. I'm going to take you down to Dr. Richard this afternoon for a checkup.
No, I'm all right.
As his body gradually built up a tolerance, he needed more and more of the drug.
Okay, we are live. I'm gonna turn off the music. Welcome. This is K.I.S.S Recovery 101. Bridge Sky, your host tonight, and I'm happy to say it's one of our special monthly editions. So, Risky Relationships co-host Sarah's here. You want to say hi, Sarah? Virtually.
Hello. Yes, I get to do virtually. So this is kind of nice. I'm excited. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay.
Yeah, I don't see any tech problems yet. Okay.
Woo.
But the best part, we're live, and that means I love the interactions. So if you're listening right now, feel free to say hi. Feel free to give shout outs, but mostly ask questions. There's a lot of aspects to the topic tonight that I have never experienced that viewpoint. So I encourage folks to definitely chime in and bring up questions, bring up opinions, bring up any viewpoints that, we're not even talking about because I don't even know, right? Okay.
Yes, actually, I think that's a great idea. The more the merrier, especially on, topics like these where different perspectives are always helpful.
Yes, absolutely. So tonight, a risky relationship. Sarah, this was your choice. We talked about this a few weeks ago, so I'm glad that we're bringing it back to the forefront. Stepping in as a parent, not necessarily a step parent. You don't have to be married, but maybe you're just in a relationship with there's kids in the picture that aren't yours, or maybe you are the parent and it's your child and this other person's coming in. Maybe, let's see, I would say like you and I, Sarah, we got a little tribe. We share a household, right?
We
But
do
we're not
have a
a
little tribe. We're roommates, so we definitely kind of help each other parent both your kids and mine.
guardian. We're the guardians of each other's children's.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so there's so many different elements, and I'm hoping, I don't know about you, Sarah, I think your parents have been together since forever, right? There was never a step parent in your life. Is that true?
That is true. However, my oldest sibling is actually my half sister. So my mom was married previously and she had a different father. So that's kind of, I watched my dad be the step parent.
Okay, okay. Interesting. And I also had a little bit of those elements. My parents had some issues, very temporary, and I had a very different upbringing. So I actually encouraged other adults to come into the picture, which sounds weird, and I don't need to explain that right now. So what I'd like to do, though, is I have found a clip that I'm going to break up in two parts, and just be aware, this guy, now I just found his video like literally 3 hours ago. So he's a little, for me, first impression, I'm not trying to judge him, but he's a little obnoxious. But putting that aside, I did find real truth to what he was saying. He's going to keep it real simple, which is the theme of the podcast, keep it simple, stupid. But those risky relationships with step parent, let's just go into that first clip. It's a longer one. Well, it's not quite 3 minutes, but I will share the link it's a YouTube video. He mostly does positive parenting, but this specific episode was on step parenting. So you ready, Sarah? Here we
Yes,
go.
absolutely.
Okay, here we go. Oh, I forgot to play. So if you just joined us, K.I.S.S Recovery Live, I encourage you. Here's the sound effect. Oh, it was really low. Do it again. All right, K.I.S.S Recovery 101. And please, questions, insights, viewpoints, throw it out there. Here we go. Clip number 1. So it's how to be a successful step parent.
Element. The second element that allows you to have authority is to be seen as a provider of good times and good things. You wouldn't necessarily think that's part of authority, but honestly, if you can set and enforce limits, but you're not seen as a provider of good times and good things, you won't have authority. It will feel like you're a dictator or you're someone who's come in as a drill sergeant to just kind of run their lives. When you add this piece, to be seen as a provider of good times and good things, it actually gives you authority in your position as a parent, because now they have a reason to interact with you. Now they have a motivation or an incentive to maintain a relationship with you. So those two elements are both necessary: being able to set and enforce appropriate limits, being seen as a provider of good times and good things. Now you're in a position of authority with that child. Can you see that this is true if you are their parent, their step-parent, their grandparent, their teacher, their advisor, their counselor? You got to be able to have both. That authority puts you in a position where you can fully function as a parent. All of the
Okay, you can tell I'm rusty, and it's been a couple weeks. That was the second part, but we played that first. But we'll just vibe off that. So what do you think of that clip, Sarah? The main key point, he was saying, Facebook user says, Sarah, hey. I can't see who that is. They're anonymous. Again, you have to check the box. So you can remain anonymous, which is nice out in the public view. But I wanted to say the main point for that clip was, what do you think of provider of good times and good things? That actually creates authority wherever your role is. What do you think of that, Sarah? I want to give you the floor first.
Okay, yes. Actually, I think that holds value. I mean, it's pretty simple. I don't know how to describe it. I guess for me, it makes me think of that, what do you call that expression where the dog doesn't bite the hand that feeds it?
Yep.
Yes. So if you're giving these basically reward systems to these kids, they're going to be like, oh, okay, and kind of follow along, just like you know. So, yeah.
Okay, interesting, because usually it seems like you and I, not that we have opposite viewpoints, but a lot of times you're definitely the one who's, I didn't like that for this reason when I like something.
No, and I think I definitely have my own viewpoints on discipline, and you know that, as well as, like, I don't know how to describe it, like cracking down, I guess, but it makes it a lot easier to get kids to listen if you're not just an a-hole 24/7.
Dictator? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And the first thing that came to my mind is they have a parent and possibly another parent, not necessarily, but they don't need another parent, right? But they do. It's nice to have another like healthy, safe person of trust, if that's, could give them that benefit of the doubt, hopefully. But what I like so here's what I call this concept. What he's talking about is I've always talked about when I've had a relationship with somebody and we got to that point of introducing kids, is the good cop versus bad cop. Oh, Sarah and we talk about this with our kiddos, right?
Yeah.
And we go back and forth now, but that's taken time, But yes, I remember this was, now looking back, a red flag for my relationship, because I realized when he couldn't understand the concept, I'd say, look, I appreciate that you're trying to come in, and you're more like supporting me and you're trying to like help the situation, but it's not helping. In fact, I need you to be the good cop always, at least, especially initially, because I, as their mom who's been in their life the whole time, I get to be bad cop, because they trust me, they know I have that unconditional love. You're a new person. And especially with my last previous longer term relationship, he had built little bonds with two of my older children, and so it was good, it was really good and positive in the beginning because they more considered him like a friend, but when he got mad at me, guess who he took it out on?
Yes. And by the way, I just want to say there is a difference between co-parenting with somebody and just being a trustworthy adult in somebody's life. And
Correct.
I think what we really want to gear towards and focus on is that co-parenting aspect, where if you have a significant role in somebody's life, like being somebody's partner, where you're going to be there in and out, day in and day out, that's where you kind of want to have those boundaries, more or less. You and I, like our situation where we live together, so obviously it just kind of works out that we both work as a
But
team.
we have great communication, I feel like.
Yes, but
away we talk about things.
We do, absolutely. And we're not a couple, but we co-parent all the time.
Oh, definitely.
And I also think the other thing is, like, I don't know, I have my partner that I've been with for 6 years or whatever, and he is he's a father, he's got his own daughter, but he has been very respectful in a sense that he never comes in and tells Lily what to do, what not to do. He's very cautious if we're getting into a fight or I'm yelling at her, or whatever's happening, he stays out of it unless he has inserted his opinion. Like, she threw a temper tantrum at his house and started slamming his doors and throwing stuff in his house, and he's like, nah, that's where this ends.
You draw the line, right?
Yep. And that's okay, because that's now she's disrespecting him in his house. So
right.
But otherwise, I appreciate the fact that he has stepped out, and there are times where I get overwhelmed as a parent, and it's nice when you have an adult when you don't have to ask them to help, and they just they can read your energy is drained, and they're like, let me step in here. Let's help break this up. Like, I need adults like that in my life.
Right. And you guys have been together for quite a while, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so what I think can be risky is, especially in recovery, especially how long, you've been working on yourself. For me, I'll speak on me. I definitely I was focused on filling a void. So I'd bring this person in, and I wasn't thinking about how it was really affecting the kids. And so I was in conflict because I'm having this person come in where I don't even know where we stand. I don't even know where limits are or boundaries are. And then when I had to pull him aside and have conversations, this is before, but years ago, I just remember he got so defensive and offended, and he thought that I was like talking down to him because I again said, look, I just need you to be the good cop. Okay. I again appreciate, but he really conflicted with any kind of that communication. So I think communication is actually, let's go right into the second clip, which was supposed to be played first. But this one I think you're going to like, and we're going to chime off of a lot, because he discusses how to set and enforce those limits where you're all on the same page, right? So
yes.
Okay, here we go. Second clip, or second part of this clip, and then we'll go off of that.
Perfect.
Exactly the same, even though your role is slightly different. One of the most common things that step parents run into, and this has to do with role, okay, is kids saying, you're not my real mom. You're not my real dad. Oh, like you're a fake person or something? You are a parent to them, but you're not their biological parent, and sometimes they'll use that against you, or they'll bring it up as a reason why you don't get to have authority with them. You might be thinking the same thing in your own mind. I'm not really their parent. I'm going to back off. I'm going to defer to my husband, or I'm going to defer to my wife, who is their biological parent, and I'm just going to kind of play it cool over here on the side. That doesn't always work really well either. So let's get clear about what your job is first. And if you've been here on the channel very long, you know exactly where I'm going with this. What is your job as a step parent? Now, you got all kinds of good answers to that, I know. We're going right to the core of this thing. Your job is to love them no matter what, and even if. That's your job. Wrap your arms and your heart around that for just a minute. That will change everything. Your job is to love them. It's not to make sure that they this or to make sure that they that. You can't. We really are not very good at controlling outcomes like that. Your job is to love them no matter what and even if. With that in mind, how can you now have authority as a parent? Authority is established with two elements that are both necessary to have authority. And honestly, the little step word that we talked about earlier isn't even relevant here. This is to have authority with kids. Whether you're their teacher, their parent, their step parent, their grandparent, doesn't matter. You got to have these two elements in place. Number one, you have to be able to set and enforce appropriate limits. This gets back to some really basic principles that we talk about here on the channel all the time about being clear about what you control and what you don't. If you're going to set and enforce appropriate limits, you have to know what you control, because you don't always get cooperation from these kids or even from your partner. So get clear about what you control, and you pick those things as the context around which you set and enforce appropriate limits.
Ooh, I think you pretty much nailed it. What do you think?
Okay, I can jump right in on this. I love this because recently this hits home because of the situation in our own home personally. So there was a moment where I stepped in on, with your permission, something going on with one of your kids.
Oh, yep.
And I got that. I remember you're not my parent, you can't tell me what to do, like that defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm going to push you out of here, you don't have authority. And it kind of hurts a little bit because it's like, you don't get how much I love you. And that's
Right.
the only reason I am doing this. Like,
Right.
but also, so it can be frustrating and overwhelming, but that is a challenge on any level where, and kids know where to cut the deepest.
Mm-hmm.
And they're quick to go to it because they just want their freedom. So, but yeah, that right away I was like, oh, that hits home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I really like is kind of in ties with, what we're reading in the book of boundaries, right? I think it's a conversation to have with the other person. Again, it does not have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a roommate. It could be a partner. It could be any key person that's now really involved in your life. But having that first initial conversation with that person, that adult. But I think it is important to bring in the kids and also have that conversation too. I like how he said, be clear about I don't like the word control. I think there's other better ways to put it, but be clear about, let's say, what the boundaries are, right? So what is on the table and what is not on the table. Yeah. There, that's better than the control word. I like that better.
And I'm just going to throw this out there. I think when it comes to parenting, my biggest challenge has not necessarily been with partners or roommates. My biggest challenge has been with the grandparents
Hmm.
who do
Interesting.
not want to listen or respect my way of parenting, and then it contradicts a lot of like how I raise my child, if you know what I mean. Like that, I know that becomes a big issue with me.
Let's definitely, ooh, that should be another episode. And I know that in the Book of Boundaries, Melissa Urban, there was like a whole chapter on that because that is a big element that plays into part. But another piece, oh, we got a question. A
Yes.
Facebook user says, how do you know what you control and what you don't? Right? So I think that comes into, again, what role you're stepping into. Are you there? Are you that parent already? You don't have to be biological. I don't even like that term. But have you been the one raising them, or are you that person coming in? Either way, though, I think that
I
communication piece has to come in between the adults first.
So now I have a question for you, Bridge, and I'm just curious because this might go, it kind of parallels with that question, but also, what's your, what would you suggest is a standard time frame? Like if you come into somebody's life and you're dating somebody who has children and you wind up moving into their house and you have kids and they come in, at what point do you kind of allow that shift for parental, like this is going to be kind of become your other step parent?
Ooh, that's a huge spectrum, right? There's a huge spectrum of all the different elements, especially in recovery, especially as a person myself in recovery. And then, I had things that were huge events like going through a divorce, right? And then having
Yes.
to move our house. So like when there's all these big changes coming in, I think for me, it's definitely would be wise, my opinion, just based on my lived experience, would be until I got my shit together, my understanding, and some actual even level balance back into my life. I never should have incorporated any other person, romantically or not, in my kid's life, because I felt like, looking back now, then I was in such a dark place. I didn't even realize what I was doing. I was putting that outside relationship. I wasn't focusing on the relationship with my kids, right?
Yes.
So I think all different aspects come in. That's why it's important, I think, for me anyway, is to have only people, I would say, that I know has the best intentions for me in their mindset. Like they genuinely love and care about me. Those are the people I want to go to. Those are my inner circle people, my tribe, my family, that I want to get those perspectives, whether I take them or not initially, first, up front. But of course, I also have a therapist, I also have professionals also that I can now engage in. But again, I made lots of bad decisions and mistakes, and bringing in relationships. And here's the thing, I thought I was getting away with it because I would make a point to say, nope, this is just a friend. And I would make it very clear to my quote unquote friend, there will be no interactions, physically. We are friends, especially when, around the kids, so they'd be hanging around, but there'd be no romantic gestures at all for initially. But kids are smart, right? They could feel the energies.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so like that was just like, looking back, I wish I wouldn't even have brought, the kids were so confused. I didn't even know who I was and what I was going through in recovery. It's taken me years, but if I would have put the focus on myself and discovering myself, my values, my, boundaries with myself, and made sure those were clear before I would even consider now, bringing somebody in. What's your take on that? What would you think? Do you have like a timeline, or ideally? Because unfortunately, I do see this happen a lot, especially with even my friends.
You know,
They get excited about a relationship and they bring their man right on into the family. It's sad to me.
I think it's a common courtesy with the other parent. And
Oh yeah.
where I'm going with this is, okay, if you're split up and you're dating and you're doing your thing, that's fine. And you might be dating and you might have like a series of 5-6 month relationships, which the kid that you guys share has now been introduced to all 6 people and is confused on why they come into their life and then is gone. Where I think that's something where you got to self-reflect and be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't introduce until after 6 months. Then I know that maybe it's going to go somewhere then. And also incorporating the opinion in a sense of, hey, are you okay if I have our kid get introduced? I think this is getting serious. And I'm sure even if you don't have a great relationship, at least you know you're going to hear the freaking truth. Like, nope, that's a shitty idea. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it sucks either way, but at least you'll kind of know. It gives you that other perspective because they're going to be concerned about the kid at the end of the day. And that's what it kind of comes down to. Like, for me, I think it's a big red flag when somebody meets somebody, moves into their house, and they're calling that other parent their mommy or daddy within a year.
Oh, yes. Or like 3 months after a divorce. Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful. That is such a beautiful point. I feel like when you're looking at that spectrum of when to, when not to, like, if you don't really know your partner or this person that you're trying to bring in your family unit, like thoroughly know, if you don't feel comfortable asking those uncomfortable or awkward, or maybe you might offend them questions, that's a big hard no then.
Yes.
You know, like if you're not even comfortable. But if if you don't feel like you know how that, adult or whatever is element, if you don't even have the capability to have that conversation, that is definitely not the time, right?
Yes.
And we're not talking about dating periods. And I like, in my mind, I'm just saying, if you're going to start bringing, like for me, like I said, we did not kiss, hug, hold hands, none of that when I was in those relationships, at least initially. But I also never had those real conversations. And here's the weird thing. On my side of things, it was weird because they really wanted to get it with, like, meet the kids, get involved with the kids. And I had to keep them, I kept them at a distance for a long time because I felt like I needed to build my relationship with them first. And again, looking back, I'm sad at myself that I did that. I should have been more. No shouldas. But, it would have made more sense if I was clear-minded back then, that I should have been more focused on the relationships with each of my children. But here's some, we don't want to forget about the pro tips, right? So here we got some actual knowledge that I feel like is going to make a huge, hopefully bring up some really good, and let's see, we're at 8:30, wonderful. But that's the hot fire. Normally this is the hot seat segment, but because this is one of our special editions, I just thought I like the sound effect. I wanted to bring that back in. But here is the hot topic. I think I love this. Okay, it's from theparents.com. Now, we're not going to hit every single one. Obviously, we don't have time, which is great. So I've only read a couple of them. I'm like, ooh, I like this, but I have not read all. We're going to go through all of them right now. So 9 things a step parent should never do. Ooh, interesting, right?
I'm curious on this.
It says, becoming a step parent, read these 9 important step parenting no-nos and what to do instead. Ooh, I like that. So very blunt, kind of negative, like, don't do this, but here, positive. Here's what you can do instead. Okay.
Yes, I like that. Here
we go. Let's start with the first one. Oh, they don't just put numbers by them. Okay.
Of course.
It says step parenting can bring many joys and many challenges. And let's see, one of the differences. So also, again, Sarah, I want to bring in your take. So again, I get to see the elements, at least with Dan, who I adore, and Lily. I think it's wonderful because he does, for the most part, just kind of, he's that calm tree that just kind of absorbs, is there. Yes. And like keeping you guys, protected, lets you guys do your thing. But he will step in. But I've never seen him step in like a negative, dictatory asshole way.
An authoritative manner.
Right. But I think because he's been just kind of more kind of, I wouldn't say known his place, but Lily like has built this trust with him because she knows he's not going to just step in and snap on her and say, you have to do this and do that. She's built that trust within him, that calmness, that when he does step in, she actually takes that seriously, like listens and, absorbs
she's
it.
like, oh shit, he's mad. Like, he never gets mad.
Right. Woo, you ready for number 1? I finally found it.
All right, awesome.
Okay. Oh, this is going to hit home for both of us, I think.
Okay.
Number 1, try to take the other parent's place. Oh, sheesh. Now I know. Let's go on to the other side of dad and yourself, the other parent and the other newly added adult. How has that situation been playing out for you? You don't have to give details or names or anything, but and I can speak first if you'd like me to. Do you want me to read a little from it? The clip, it says, the article, it says, whether the reparenting is a result of a divorce, a breakup, or a death, you can never replace the child's other parent and should never attempt to. These children are not yours, said Derek Randall, parenting expert and certified step-family coach through New York. He adds that no matter what the ex-spouse or ex-partner has done, respect the child's need to love that parent.
Because their parent is their parent. And I do have a child with a parent who cannot get it out of his head not to talk shit about me.
Sounds like my situation. Yeah.
Not just where she can hear it and is eavesdropping on it. We're talking directly to her.
Right. Yes.
Which, how fucked up is that going to make their mind when they come home and they see that their parent's doing one thing and the other one's saying another thing, and so they get conflicted and they want to please one parent and the other, and it just kind of starts spiraling out of control. And you know what? As a person that has to deal with this constantly, I am happy to say I have a lot of great support, and I think I've been navigating it fairly well. But holy shit, if you don't have the support or anything, that is just opening a can of worms, because I don't know.
I've lived it.
It's a nightmare.
I've been living it. But here's what my advice would be on that notion.
The other parent
continue to be doing, I know it's hard. We both know it's endurance, right? But to be the bigger person, to be the bigger parent, to not talk shit about the other parent, and to consistently do your best, as much as you can. And like I've seen now with my daughter, who was the youngest through the worst of my times, and now that she's gotten older, she sees the 180. She now is able to kind of see the whole picture, where before she was so manipulated and so confused from that other aspect. But over my years of not doing that, I had slips here and there. Eventually, I just kind of lost my shit and was like,
"What you do?"
Actually, here's the truth. I didn't call the divorce. That your dad was. Finally, I gave in a little bit, but really, I don't sit there and it's been validating to finally now, after years, she's little things here and there have slipped that have made me feel she's understanding that, wow, they just have nothing better to do but talk shit about you. It's been how many years? 4 years, Mom, and they're still. All they want to talk about is you. First of all, that's weird. And second of all, the bad things, that happened years ago that aren't even current. They don't even know, right? But here's the one thing that I think is we need to talk about. They also said, because it says what to do instead. It says, but before that it said, the same goes for requiring ever. Do not do this. Stepkids to call you mom or dad. Don't ever demand it. Don't even ask for it. Ooh. Isn't that the weirdest fucking thing?
Whatever. Let's just throw it out because everybody fucking knows it anyways.
True.
Yeah, they had my kid calling somebody their, what was it? My other mommy within 6 months of dating.
Gross. Yep. Same here.
Yep.
And I know, okay, I'm normally speaking from my side of the thing. But it's I feel like more common when it's the mom, like on our side, I feel like it's the dad who got the new relationship, who immediately, I don't even know if it was the girlfriend, really, but I noticed her dad was quick to be like, oh, you can call her mom. Why don't you go ahead and call her mom? Pushing that, right?
Yes.
And I've only noticed that just within my circle of people, so I don't know the greater picture or the other side of it. But on the other side of, okay, I always like to put myself in the other person's shoes. I would never, ever consider that at all.
Well, you know what's even funnier is I know like in our household, the kids kind of get goofy, and I know like Lily will call you mom sometimes, and sometimes I'll hear Ever call me mom. And I don't think about it, but sometimes it'll catch me off guard, and it almost makes me uncomfortable. I can't imagine if somebody really did, like one of your kids always called me mom, like I really was one of their parent, like it would set a whole different tone.
Okay, I love that you just said that, because initially I'm like, huh? And now, but after you just started talking, I realized you're right. Because I think Lily does get confused now because she has to call so and so this and that, but she'll be like, "Mom." Oh, I mean, yep. Mom number 2, or I'm like, honey, whatever you want to call me, it's okay.
Yes.
But I do feel like this wave of uncomfortability for like a few seconds, just because I feel almost sad for her because she hasn't been able to figure out, because of the other side of the household. I don't even know what's going on there. Well, here's the positive. What to do instead. Be clear with yourself and your stepchild about your role in the family. A step-parent can become a loved, respected mentor to the child while realizing that they can't reconstitute the biological family. Remember that a stepchild can develop feelings of love and respect for you without using mom or dad or another parenting term. I love that. And if the kids do decide on their own to use parenting term for you, demonstrate a quiet gratitude and a responsibility to live up to that label. Okay.
I like that.
One thing I'll say, I'm not trying to talk shit, but I am a little bit, is I remember, Facebook user says fucking all right. I love that. All right. It is all right. But I was going to say, so what happened with my previous and last relationship for almost 3 years now is he came into the element when my kids were not at home with me, right? Okay. I don't judge me. That was already a red flag. As in tree where a tree, he came in, he moved in. But he knew, and I was very clear when he started to live with me. Again, the kids were taken away from me. They weren't in my home. But I made a point to say, my only main primary focus is working my ass off on this recovery thing, but I'm trying to get all my kids back home, right? He knew that from the get-go. And in the beginning, again, looking back, I definitely would not have had him there when my kids came home, okay? I learned my lesson. I've learned my lessons. Yep. But I did make a point to always have that communication piece open. And one thing I specifically noticed, especially with my then 4-year-old son, was he started calling him dad because his biological dad just lives way down in Rochester, already had 2 other children, and really isn't much, involved as like he was seeing in school with the other dads. Or I remember TV shows, he'd see the dad, and he wasn't understanding those elements. So the first time I heard him call him dad, that night, on the bed, we had a conversation. I said, how'd you feel about that? What'd you feel about that? And he was like, oh, I don't know, it seems fine. I'm like, no. Like, no, it can't just be fine, because we need to set the tone right now. Is he going to call you by your name? Or are we going to see where that goes?
That you addressed it right away.
Yes. And so I thought I made it. Oh, you're right. I validate. You just validate. I'm feeling validation right now. Yes. I made a point. Okay. Then if you're okay with him doing that, I'm not going to correct him. Okay. Just so we're on the same page. I made that clear, guideline. Unfortunately, when things got awry with us, I walked out of the room. He was upset with me, even though we had this our heated arguments. We'll go out in the garage. The children are aware. They can feel the energies. Yep. But my cute little son, went in there and he was like, hey, Dad, what's going on? And this motherfucker went, don't call me Dad. I'm not your dad. I fucking snapped. Not in front of him, but I was like, you out in the garage right now.
Yes.
And that was the end of that. Like, I'm like, I mean, it took me a while because I was so heated, but I'm like, I cannot believe you just did that. Like, I am fired up because you have no idea what you're doing to my son. Like, I could care less in a sense of, you're not hurting me. The fact that you're now trying to hurt my son through, to get to me, that's done. So your name, I will correct him every single time. And, that was basically the start of the downfall. Came crashing down. But I learned from that right away. Like, again, naturally, he was starting to try to label and figure out things. I had that conversation, and immediately when he flipped that in such a negative way, and then he tried to go back and forth, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. And I would correct him every single time. So, those are those things that I didn't see coming. And again, I wasn't very clear-minded. But I'm glad that I put my foot down. Now, me back in the day, previously, I would have more tried to keep it neutral and maybe gave him a piece of my mind, but then like, okay, just don't ever do it again. And we'll continue this. And I was like, I'm proud of myself that I put my foot down and said, now that's done. Like, dad word is never coming out. We're going to establish that right away.
Yep. And if it gets to that point, I think, let's get real, it's the end of the relationship. If you have literally just had your title stripped, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's not even, what kind of fucking relationship are you going to have going forward? I mean, let's get real. Now that's going to be brought up in every argument, every time something bad happens like that. And that's just terrible ammunition to use between a couple and now the kids involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, terrible.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. We're running out of time because the beep tab's going to be coming up in a couple minutes. Again, this is a great article. I'm going to share this link. It's on parents.com. It's 9 things never to do. I'm just going to read through a couple of them. I'm going to stop on the one that I absolutely would love to discuss because I feel like, again, keeping it simple, like those initial, like, hey, maybe we could think about introducing you. Again, it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It could be a roommate. It could be, for me, I was adopted. I have blood family now that I've just met like last year that, again, I'm having those communication pieces with my kiddos, of all ages, to, decide to see what they're comfortable with, right? I'm not trying to force this whole quote unquote family notion onto them or these people now. Of course, they've all been very pleasant and amazing, and it's been nice. But that's not to say that I don't even know them very well yet either. So, okay, so a couple more. 9 things. Okay, we said trying to take the other parent's place. Physically punishing a step kid. Yeah, that's a big clear no-no.
Hell no.
And then another one's assume a position of authority, which I think the other clip kind of went over a little bit.
Well, and you know what? This is where I'm going to jump in because this is where we're at in our household. I don't and never will assume any role. And both of us have always talked to each other about addressing the other parent's children. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Like, I came to you and I'm like, okay, like, I'm going to let shit fly. And you're like, okay.
Yes, please do. That's my problem.
But I would never go and correct somebody's children without that permission. Like, that is a huge no. I
love that you said that.
Don't get me wrong. I've seen some things happen every now and then where maybe like something's about to be damaged or the dog gets kicked and I'm like, don't kick the fucking dog.
Right.
And I'm like, but that's
or different. Safety or definitely.
Comment, we're not, it's more of just a typical kid thing, not just like, we're going to teach you some lessons here.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that element. And I love that, I feel like too, especially with your daughter and myself, because when she spent more time with me one-on-one, well, not just one-on-one, I have my kids, but over the summer, like I felt like I definitely had the conversations many conversations with you, but I felt like there was a needed to set some authority or say bad cop just because you weren't there. You were working all day.
Yep.
So I couldn't be fun bridge, you know. I mean, I definitely liked when I would let her, treat her or whatever, spoil her a little bit. But when I realized it was the day to day, okay, now I can't be grandmas, like grandmas get to be. I got to set some boundaries here. But of course, and especially when I noticed that it did like hurt her feelings, or when I felt like, she went downstairs or kind of set her distance with me, I gave her space, and eventually addressed it, but I also addressed it with you. Because as Mama Bear, like immediately you're going to go to your daughter's side. I'm going to go to my kid's side first.
Yes.
Right? So I wanted to be clear, and I expect that, but I wanted to be clear on where I was coming from, what the whole aspect of from my viewpoint was, right?
Absolutely.
And of course, even though I'd be scared, but I was open to, how you viewed it and your viewpoint, per se.
Yes.
But again, it's hard, and it's hard but that's why it's sad that we're, at least in America and our culture, is everybody's independent, don't need nobody. But still today in many other cultures, and especially in history, it took, what do they say, a tribe, a village to raise children.
Because it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I, honest to God, don't know a single person on this planet that can honestly say they raised a child from birth until they were gone out of the house without a single ounce of help from another person.
Right. And and them themselves and the child's like perfectly successful, healthy people.
Yeah.
I don't know any story like that. Maybe there is a couple here and there, but they must be just like amazing people. I don't know, but yes. And so we won't talk about it, but one thing that I thought stood out and would be good to have a conversation about is to 9 things never to do, interfere with co-parenting. So that's co-parenting when those biological, or maybe not, whatever, those adults that raised the children, never interfere with those co-parenting discussions. And it says it can be tempting to weigh in on a parenting discussion because your partner and their ex, between your partner and their ex, but don't. The ex didn't agree to co-parent with you and will likely feel ganged up on if you give unsolicited advice. I just like that part. Unsolicited advice.
Yes.
And also, I think it is important when you're in a relationship with someone to simply ask them before you move in the house, like I've not
courtesy.
To say, what do you think is my role? Because I've never been on the other side where the other person had a child. Let me tell you, I keep trying. This doesn't seem to work out. I want a guy with kids or a female with kids. I want someone who already understands that level of parenting. But
yes.
I would right away, if we were wanting to take it to that next level, let's say Andrea's a person, I would say, for Hendrix, what was my role here? Like, what do you see me as coming in? Because I'm here to support you. I love you as a person, whatever. I love Hendrix too, but again, it's not my child, So I also feel like I have that boundary already. So it's having those conversations and finding that, making sure that you're both in aligned. Because if you're not, that might be a time to, take a pause on that relationship or work those things out. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're okay. I was just going to say that's exactly kind of where I think it boils down to, is if you can't have open, honest communication, mm-hmm. where not only you and whoever is coming into your life understand everybody's roles. Another thing I like that you mentioned, we always talk about stuff to each other. We're constantly like checking in. If one of us had a conversation with one other's kid, we're like, okay, so we did, like, I don't know why, mm-hmm. but we're just so like hyper vigilant on that kind of stuff. But we're always communicating, and that's where we get along. And I know that's where I fall short with other people when I can't get clear, consistent communication.
Right. And, the co-parenting situation, because I have 2 of those, and at times they work very well. At other times they're just like, it's a shit show.
Yes.
But what I try to give my kiddos is that I stay consistent. That's one thing that at least is in my control, is that I stay consistent and I stay committed to my relationship with my kids. Okay, but there, again, I'm going to post the link for the article. It's such great. I like how they'll give you those 9 things never to do, but what to do instead. I think that's beautiful. Any person that's going to step into any situation where there's kids involved, of all ages, mind you. Okay.
Well, yes, and I'm a big fan of anything that gives you a solution. So instead of just telling, anybody can tell you what not to do, but how do I fix it? How do I make it right? So yes, I love that they include that.
Yes. So, and definitely, obviously you're not always going to agree. I'm sure you look at my parenting style and you're like, Bridge, come on, really? Or there's certain things, maybe I'm too late at it, or maybe I'm too much of what, or this or that. But I feel like if you need, or you want to step in, or you feel like there's a point where you need to draw my attention to it, you will do that, right? Because we have that trust and we have that stronger,
we have built that
relationship.
Yes, absolutely. And that's another thing. At the end of the day, is it worth you voicing an opinion? Like, are you just being stubborn and wanting to control a situation, or is there seriously an issue where you need to confront somebody and how they're parenting? Otherwise, let them fucking be. It's their style. That's how they want to raise their kids.
Yep.
Let them do whatever the hell they want. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
If it's not hurting anybody, why do you need to control the situation? Who are you to control it? Exactly.
Okay, we're going to get into the hot seat. I think there's 8. One of them specifically, I think there's a couple of them, but one specifically, I think it's the glimmer. I want you to talk about because it's beautiful.
Yes. Yep.
And then we will wrap it up and be done at 9. We're going to do it. We're going to take 7 minutes. Okay, you ready?
All right.
Sound effect. It's my favorite time. It's meme time. Okay. Oh, and one thing I was going to play this other clip earlier because this guy, it was a short clip, but I felt like it didn't have enough to go off of, in case we didn't have enough to go off of. But it was beautiful. He was the step parent, and he said he didn't know where he fell into place, okay? He was just Sam. His name was Sam. His name is Sam. He said he saw his daughter starting at 5 and 6, 7, and 8. He saw that she had a great mom, and she had a great dad, and a stepmom, and he felt like he didn't know where he fell into place. He was just Sam. And he said what he did, though, was always, and what this other guy said in the clip too, is just love his daughter and just be there and support. And he didn't need a label, right? And he didn't realize how how much that meant until she turned 18. She sat down and she said, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I don't think I give you much credit, but I am thankful and I am so grateful that you were there for me and that you've been, you're a big part of this. And he said, aside from his son being born, that was one of the most heart-wrenching, like moving, touching moments of his life. And I thought, again, just that element of, they already have enough authorities, right? They got the parents, they got the whatever, the step girlfriend, they got the teachers and all. How about, come in and be on their side, be that person, that confidant, whatever.
Yes,
So.
I do like that. And, it's funny because I do have some friends that have raised kids that are not theirs to graduation and beyond. And it's amazing how much they do notice and respect of those that just stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Stay consistent and don't assume a role.
Yes. Look at Mahana. Mahana is definitely one of my besties friends, right? And I love that he's one of my inner circle people, especially family in recovery. And he really is that person, I feel like, for my kiddos. Like, he comes to all the things. He's always there, willing to, any conversation. He will definitely step in and do anything for them, but he doesn't need a label. Like, it's weird to me sometimes when I see these fake labels. Well, you just call him uncle or auntie or whatever. You just, no, why does anybody have to have a label? How about just, this is Bahana, and my kids know, like, he's a safe, loving person that's there for them. He's got their back, Okay.
Yes, I think that's beautiful.
Here we go. Can you see the screen? So beam number 1.
Oh, yes.
Adam's family. You recognize you?
Yep,
Can you
Morticia.
describe it? Yep.
Okay, so it's a picture of Morticia, and it reads, "The problem with closed-minded people is that their mouths are always open." How freaking accurate is that? What is
Is that
that?
beautiful?
It's like,
Huh?
I don't know. It does drive me nuts, though. It seems to be that they are the ones that like to talk the most.
Oh yes. That's yeah. That's the thing. That's the main problem with closed-minded people is they always got something to say. Okay, beautiful. Next meme is just words, and I can if you're muted. I'll go ahead and say it. Okay, so it looks like a text back and forth. The first one says, "Get your fucking shit together and act like an adult," and the second one says, "I think you have the wrong number, but you're right." And I thought that was just funny. Sorry.
I like that.
Like, oh man, I think this was meant for me. Oh, this is great. So there's a kitchen. The kitchen staff. He's got the hairnet on. There's a tray.
Oh my gosh,
If you've ever worked in a kitchen, is a tray, like one of those big cooking trays, and beans spilled. It looks like nasty ass baked. I hate baked beans, by the way. Pinto beans or whatever, spilled all over the kitchen floor. What does it say? Can you read it?
Best not tell this guy any secrets. Spilt everywhere.
Spilled the beans. This is just
Yes.
a dad joke, but I loved it. Got to bring in some humor initially. Okay, because we're gonna hit them with some hard ones.
Okay.
Just words.
Sit with your craving until you know its real name. Pain, blame, shame, boredom, grief, sadness, or betrayal. And that's very accurate.
Mm-hmm. And initially, that just makes me think of like recovery dharma,
Yes.
right? Like that is beautiful. Circle of people, short, sweet book, recovery dharma. But really, it's been allowing me to first of all recognize, oh yes, I am uncomfortable. Ugh. But then sitting with him, being like, okay, I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to rise. I'm going to go with this. And I like that it says, give it its real name, right? Instead of anger or anxiety or, I mean,
Yes. What's
all
the
kinds of
action-
other ones.
What's the real feeling behind it?
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Just words, which I thought was beautiful. Forgiveness does not require reconnection.
A freaking men. Just kidding.
Right? Yes. Nope. I was just gonna say. I think that's where I do like that steps program is it's very clear when you're ready, when you're willing, or at least gonna attempt to make it a amends, right? Is nice when you go through it with a mentor, a sponsor, a guide, or person is it's very clear that you understand that other person especially understands this is for me, this is the amends, this is what it is. It does not mean you're welcome back in my fucking life. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope. You know how I feel about that.
Okay, we got 3 more.
All right, me trying to ask someone for a favor. Hey, could you help me with this thing? Absolutely no pressure, though. Totally okay if you can't. If you'd rather run me over with a car, that's cool. Are you mad at me? Yes, I can relate to that.
This is just, I think both of us, in a sense,
Yes.
it's just like, first of all, I just hate asking for help, period. Because I don't like to be a burden, especially when I know I would do it myself if I could, or I could do more to do it myself. But then when I finally get it out, it just like goes beyond. Well, can you watch the kids from this time this way? Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll just make sure this kid watches it for this time and that. You just really gotta break up. 10 minutes literally is all you gotta. Can you just be there? Just breathe. Be in the house. Okay, thank you.
You do that all the time.
I know. Was everything okay? Were they quiet? Or could we still be cool? Okay.
That makes me funny because you do that to me all the time. I'm like, she knows I'm a grown adult. That's
And I'm gonna be here anyway, and it's
Yes.
like not a big deal. Okay, second to last, and I'll tell you, I saved the best for last. But
Okay.
go ahead, read
The
this
trees
one.
are about to show us how lovely it is to let things go. 100%.
So beautiful. I'll just leave that where it is.
Yep.
All right, this is your beautiful share on the Bad Moms page everywhere.
Yes. All right.
Let's go through it.
This has been coming up for me a lot lately, and so that's why I've started sharing it, actually. But a little guide to glimmers. Glimmers are the opposite of triggers.
Here, let's
They're-
go back and forth.
Okay.
Is it because it'd be more fun? Because there's a
Yep,
bunch of
go
them.
ahead.
Okay. A little guy took glimmers. Okay. I should wear my glasses. Let me get closer to the screen. They are tiny moments of awe.
They spark joy and evoke inner calm.
They have a positive effect on our mental health.
They are micro moments causing tiny mood shifts.
They send cues of safety to our nervous system.
They bring feelings of ease and contentment.
Our body responds with positive energy.
They follow us to feel hope. They allow us to feel hope when lost. And yes, they follow us around too.
Yes. Our nervous system is strengthened by them.
They can help increase our well-being.
Once we start embracing them, it can become a beautiful way to see the world around you. Glimmers!
Yes.
So let's just say you're new or you kind of forgot, like myself. Could you again describe what a glimmer is? I forgot.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought it was like put it in place of something else.
Yep. So basically, glimmers are the opposite of triggers.
Yeah.
So they're the little moments that spark joy instead of a spark of like, oh God, this, whole panic attack or anxiety, overwhelming feeling. Like, no, it's just those little things that are like, oh, that's so beautiful. Or, oh my God, I forgot all about that. And all of a sudden your heart just feels lighter, or something catches your eye and you're distracted from a bad thing for a second. Just anything like that.
This is such a beautiful, positive way to change the brain, right? I remember, this was an aha thing for me when I first read this. I've actually had this on, been saving it to bring up because we had this conversation recently. I told you that I'm getting the trigger is one of those main words that are overused now.
Oh my God,
become
yes.
the word of the in every freaking podcast or every freaking YouTube video, right? That
Yes.
they've actually lost, to me, in my mind, value in a sense, because everyone will use, I was triggered, and it's not even like relevant. Well, I
It's
think
almost
initially
not even being
it's
for someone-
faded. It's jaded
Yes.
now.
Yes.
So I had said that I learned because I'm in school now in my class for human, just consciousness and human potential. I loved that two authors that were in teaching the group, or my class, was like, they didn't use the word trigger. They said, what was the word? It was like, it's something with it. Oh gosh, I can't remember what it was. But it came in and now I can't think of it. That's all right. We don't have time. But it was like another word instead of you were prompt. That's it.
Yes.
That was the word.
Being prompted
This
by something.
prompted this reaction, or this prompted this feeling, right? At least I gave it more of a neutral tone, because trigger to me sounds like trigger of a gun. It sounds like a negative freaking tone. But then when right after we kind of had that conversation and you found this glimmers thing and posted, I'm like, this is so much better. It's sparkly and shiny and beautiful. I love it. So
Yes.
that is what we're ending our show with. Thank you again, Sarah. Again,
my
an
God.
hour is not enough time when we talk about some relationship shit, right?
I know.
I feel like I hope I didn't spread a bunch more negativity than positivity. But again, the links will be posted to the clips, this article, and pro tip resources.
No, that sounds good. And hey, we ended on glimmers, so you can't go wrong there.
Absolutely, and only 5 minutes after. All right, love you. Everybody have
Love you.
a great week, and I plan to be announcing something next week, which I think will be exciting, and also mostly for me. This podcast is for me, y'all. Just so you know that. And all right, I will catch you on the flip side. Bye, Sarah. Love you.
Bye. Love you.
Turning home.